The final shipment from Alastair Proudfoot's studio arrived on a Tuesday, smelling of beeswax, aged paper, and the faint, metallic ghost of ink. For Ilara, the head librarian of the Haversham collection, it was like receiving a piece of his soul. The news of his fatal fall down his own narrow staircase 2 weeks prior had felt like a tear in the world's fabric, a page ripped carelessly from a priceless manuscript. Now, here was what remained. 3 restored 17th-century folios, his last work. The first 2 books were perfect, their spines supple, their gilding impeccable. Alastair's hands had been sure to the end. The third was a lesser-known Elizabethan travelogue, The Perilous Voyages of Captain John Finch. As she cradled it, her thumb found a subtle unevenness along the inner hinge of the spine. Not a flaw Alastair would ever miss. A sliver of parchment, too smoothly inserted to be an accident, peeked out. With the delicate touch of a surgeon, she teased it free. It was a single leaf, seemingly blank, but the paper was all wrong. A modern heavy stock, unnaturally smooth. A palimpsest, but not in the ancient sense. This was a deliberate hiding place. Her heart, a quiet metronome in her chest, began to beat a frantic rhythm. In the conservation lab, under the cold, clinical eye of a UV lamp, the page awoke. Words bloomed in a familiar, elegant script. Alastair's hand, but frantic, stripped of its usual calm precision. Ilara, if you are reading this, the fall was no accident. I have been a fool. My pride has been my undoing. The Haversham Codex is a forgery. A brilliant one, but a line nonetheless. I confirmed it during the restoration. The iron gall ink has a synthetic binder unknown before 1950. The forger used period materials, but the chemistry betrays him. I knew who it had to be. Only one person had the skill, the access, and the motive. Julian Thorne. I confronted him. I was not righteous. I was greedy. I thought not of exposing him, but of leveraging him. I demanded a monthly sum for my silence. I wanted to secure my retirement, to finally be free of financial worry. I have traded my integrity for a comfortable chair and a view of the sea. He agreed, but tonight he called. His voice was different, calm. He said he had the first payment, that we should celebrate my astute eye. He invited me to his gallery. I am about to leave. The stairs in my hall are steep, Ilara, and the runner is loose. I have meant to fix it for months. If I fall, know that I was pushed. He has too much to lose. The Codex is his masterpiece, the cornerstone of his reputation. My accusation is here, in my last binding. The truth is hidden in plain sight, as it so often is. Forgive me. Alastair. The UV lamp hummed like a trapped insect. Ilara's ordered world shattered. The central conflict was no longer a historical puzzle, but a present physical danger. The antagonist was Julian Thorne, a pillar of the academic and art world, a man with a towering reputation to protect and the ruthlessness to murder for it. Her own flaw, her desire for safety and silence, screamed at her to re-hide the note, to process the book, to let the past bury its dead. Forgive me, Alastair. The UV lamp hummed like a trapped insect. Ilara's ordered world shattered. The central conflict was no longer a historical puzzle, but a present physical danger. The antagonist was Julian Thorne, a pillar of the academic and art world, a man with a towering reputation to protect and the ruthlessness to murder for it. Her own flaw, her desire for safety and silence, screamed at her to re-hide the note, to process the book, to let the past bury its dead. Began with a choice. She could not unknow. Alastair's voice, pleading from beyond the grave, was a more powerful call to order than any cataloging system. Her external goal shifted: expose Julian Thorne. Her internal need began its painful metamorphosis from a desire for safety to a demand for justice. Her investigation was a quiet one, conducted in the hushed tones of her profession. She cross-referenced Thorne's publications with the Codex's provenance. She found a pattern of minor, brilliant discoveries that always seemed to center on items he had authenticated or acquired. She used the library's subscription to a scientific journal database to quietly research synthetic ink binders, her heart pounding as she found the exact compound Alastair had described. The confrontation escalated when Thorne himself visited the library. He was charm personified, offering his condolences for Alastair, his voice a soothing balm. "A terrible loss," he said, standing too close. "Such a careful man. It's a tragedy that his own home should betray him." His eyes, however, were not soothing. They were assessing, moving from her face to the stack of books on her desk, which included The Perilous Voyages of Captain John Finch.
"Yes," Alara managed, her voice thin. "A betrayal." He lingered, his gaze sharp. "I heard he finished his work for you. He was a true artist. It's comforting to know his last pieces are in such capable hands." The threat was velvet-wrapped, but it was there. Her dark night of the soul came that evening. Sitting alone in her silent apartment, she realized the evidence she had was circumstantial. A hidden note from a dead man, her own research, which could be dismissed as the obsession of a grieving colleague. Thorne was powerful, connected. She was a librarian. The safe thing, the orderly thing, was to let it go. The weight of her own fear was suffocating. Monza began at dawn. She would not be silenced. Alastair had failed by seeking to profit from the truth. She would not fail by hiding from it. The climax was not a physical fight, but a strategic one. She invited Thorne to the library for a private viewing of a fascinating discovery related to the Codex. He came, a smug certainty in his step. In the rare Brooks room, under the bright reading lamp, she presented him not with the palimpsest, but with a sheaf of her own printed research, the chemical analysis of the ink, the provenance anomalies. "You're reckless," he sneered, his charm evaporating. "You have nothing." "I have a witness," Alara said, her voice steady for the first time. She placed Alastair's restored Perilous Voyages on the table between them. "His last binding. He knew you'd come for me." He hid his full accusation not on a loose leaf, but tooled into the leather of the spine itself. A message only I would know to look for. The police have it now. It was a bluff, a final, desperate gambit. But she delivered it with the absolute conviction of a woman who had finally found her text. She saw the doubt flicker in his eyes, then the panic. He had missed a clue. In his world of forgery and lies, the idea that a bookbinder would use his craft itself as the medium for his truth was terrifyingly plausible. "You can't prove anything," he whispered, but the crack in his voice was the sound of his downfall. "Perhaps not," Alara said, "but the investigation is now official. Your reputation, Julian, is more fragile than 400-year-old paper. The light is on it now. They will find what they're looking for." He left, a man already unraveling. The resolution was not an arrest, but the beginning of one. She called the police an hour later and presented them with the real palimpsest. It was enough to open an inquiry, to cast the shadow Thorne feared. In the denouement, Alara stood once more in the silent library. The order was restored, but it was different now. It was not the sterile order of avoidance, but the earned peace of a truth preserved. Alastair's last binding sat on her desk. He had been flawed, yes, greedy,
But in the end, he had chosen to leave a record. He had entrusted her with his story. She ran her fingers over the raised bands of the spine, no longer just a curator of stories, but a vital character in one. The theme of the story, that truth, however dangerous, is the only thing worthy of preservation, was now etched into her own soul. She had moved from a fear of conflict to the courage to confront it, from being a keeper of silent knowledge to a speaker of difficult truths. The library was no longer a refuge from the world, but a fortress for the truths the world needed to hear.